Welcome to Tech in Translation, the podcast where we break down the complexities of today's most innovative technologies into something we can all understand.
Brought to you by Ironbow Technologies, a next-generation solutions provider. We're committed to helping our customers across the government, education, commercial, and healthcare sectors turn their tech challenges into real, actionable outcomes.
At Ironbow, we believe that technology should be a tool for empowerment, not a source of confusion.
That's why each episode of Tech in Translation is designed to demystify the latest trends, tools, and technologies, making them accessible for everyone, whether you're a seasoned professional or just tech curious.
Join us as we translate complex tech into everyday language, one episode at a time.
Welcome back to Tech in Translation. I'm your host for today, Tom Wootton. In this episode, we're talking about cybersecurity hygiene, what it really means, why user behavior still poses the biggest risk, and how security leaders can build smarter strategies for prevention, not just response. Joining us is Cory Jackson, Managing Director of Cybersecurity at Ironbow Technologies. Cory leads Ironbow's efforts to help organizations secure their environments from endpoint to enterprise. Cory, thanks for being here. Let's start simple. What does cyber hygiene actually mean today?
So cyber hygiene are the group of tasks that we have to do. They're fundamental to cybersecurity, like the basic blocking and tackling of security. So things like password management and rotation, patch management, installing and managing endpoint software like EDR, backup and recovery, and in general, secure configurations of endpoints and servers and network devices, all those things.
Why is it not enough to just talk about security hygiene?
We have to do the work. Security hygiene in general, are the things that really take us time and don't technically cost us a lot of money. When we're talking about new tools and technology to help us secure the enterprise, all those things they're fun to have a new widget or gadget to help secure the environment, but doing the things that have to be done around patching and user awareness training and secure system configurations, those are the things that have to be done. And they ultimately typically just cost us time and not actually dollars.
What does it mean to start at the endpoint?
So the users are interacting at the endpoint, and that's where we're most vulnerable typically, because that's where the user's storing data, they're doing their work, they're going out to the internet, they're putting us potentially at risk sometimes when they're trying to go through the efforts of doing their work during their workday. So making sure that endpoint is secure is critically important.
What are some simple but high-risk behaviors employees should stop doing when it comes to the endpoint?
We've all seen the folks with the Post-it note with their password on it, that sort of thing. So making sure that users have access to a password manager so they don't feel the need to write it on that sticky note or use a slightly more secure method in their mind of putting that sticky note under their keyboard or in the desk drawer. That can be very helpful, just providing a password vault or a password management solution for those users.
But Cory, the VPN, the antivirus, they're slowing me down. I need to get stuff done fast. Can I just turn those off?
Ideally, no. Right? And those users shouldn't have the ability to turn those off. And so it's incumbent upon IT and security to make sure that those VPN solutions, the EDR solutions, the SASE and SSC solutions that are securing those users are providing their intended purpose of keeping the user secure, but also doing it in a way such that the users can still get all their work done and they're able to innovate and do all the things that the organization needs them to do and be efficient.
Do most breaches really come down to human mistakes?
I mean, ultimately, these are systems designed and built for humans, so there's always going to be a human in the chain when it comes to a breach. It's not always, or I would say even typically, the end user's fault, because we really should have controls and policies in place to prevent an end user from being able to cause a breach or negatively impact the environment. But ultimately, it may be the fault of someone in security or IT not putting the proper controls in place to prevent that breach from happening.
Well, yeah, and it's not always intentional. Sometimes it's accidental, depending on what the user has access to or what that employee is doing at the time. And if they're driven by emotional reaction, whether it be positive or negative, and they click, tap, scan, whatever it may be.
Right. So we need to make sure we have the proper controls in place to prevent that sort of user behavior, but also train users as well so that they understand the impacts. When they potentially make a mistake, they know who to reach out to and escalate when something happens in the circumstance of a potential breach as well.
So how can leaders translate awareness into long-term behavioral change?
I think the long-term behavioral change comes when security awareness becomes part of the culture in the organization and goes beyond just doing user training once a year, but it happens in regular updates and regular meetings
Versus
throughout
the next finish approach.
Exactly.
Gotcha. Well, how do you deal with those problem users who push back on security rules?
So I think the first thing, it's critical to understand what those users' challenges are. There are some people that just won't abide and don't want to follow the rules. And frankly, those people need to be disciplined and dealt with. But I think the majority of users, they're just trying to get their job done and do their work tasks. And if security and IT take the time to understand what those users' challenges are and try to find creative ways to solve that problem, I think everyone will be better for it.
Well, on the vein of those things that sometimes cause the problem children, how do you provide security without killing usability and performance?
I think it really comes down to integrating security into the solution. So as solutions are being built for users, making sure they're secure by design and making sure that we understand the user's requirements.
Okay. How do you prevent shadow IT without compromising productivity?
Most users don't want to go outside of the systems that are made available to them by the organization. Typically, users are engaging in shadow IT activities when their needs aren't being met by the tools that are provided. So once again, going back to the users and understanding what their requirements actually are, what they are getting out of some system that they may be using that's outside of the standard sanctioned systems provided by the organization, and making sure that those needs that are met by whatever that shadow IT application or tool is are met by tools within the organization is very important. Instead of just disciplining and wagging your fingers at the user, understand what their actual needs and requirements are and make sure they're met.
So what is your advice for leaders who want to build security with users and not against them?
Make sure users are engaged early in the process when acquiring and designing systems, and also make sure that security is taken into account early in that process as well, so that the user's needs and requirements are met, but also those users' needs and requirements are met securely.
Cory, if there's one piece of advice you'd give security leaders or employees, what would it be?
Communication is paramount from the organizational perspective, making sure that IT and security leaders solicit the input of users that they're designing systems for. That's critical to make sure that their needs are met and ultimately they don't have a need to work around the system or engage in purchasing or implementing shadow IT tools. But also from the employee side, making sure they're giving constructive feedback to IT and to security on how technologies that are being put in place and how security controls are impacting them. And if they're negatively affecting their work output, make sure that's documented.
So, Cory, what's next in the cybersecurity hygiene space, especially with hybrid work, evolving threats, and user expectations?
In my opinion, when it comes to cyber hygiene, there's not a what's the next thing, since I think most of the things when it comes to this cyber hygiene are fundamental. So I wouldn't necessarily be looking for the next cool tool or widget or piece of technology. Making sure that once again, it's pretty boring, it's not exciting, but doing the basic things that we always had to do and still need to continue to do, making sure that we configure systems in a secure way, following security best practices, making sure systems are patched for vulnerabilities, making sure that users maintain good password rotation strategies and that they understand how to properly manage their passwords, all those sorts of things. I don't think there's a next big thing when it comes to that. It's doing the basic things right. And I think that translates going forward into any new architectures or systems that we talk about. We can throw AI in there or any, the latest cutting edge things. We still have to do those fundamental things.
So consistent cybersecurity practices.
Correct.
Awesome. Cory, thanks again for joining us. If you enjoyed this episode, subscribe to Ironbow's Tech and Translation podcast on your favorite platform. For more insights on cybersecurity best practices and secure digital transformation, visit ironbow.com. Until next time.